So I've got two. Sort of one is an idea, sort of half a pitch, and the other one's a bit more fleshed out. So, what about you, Ben?
I've got three, but again, like two of them are a bit kind of half.
Well, do you want to give us one to go with first, and then I'll give my one, and your one, and then my one.
Yep. So the one I've got more on is an Overwatch style game. So
Oh.
Overwatch is you have two teams,
Hmm.
and basically you pick a character from a specific like roster of characters, who all have their own unique abilities and weapons and
Yeah.
everything. And Overwatch obviously it's like a live service game. I haven't played it for a long time, but I assume they're probably still adding stuff to it.
Oh
I don't
yeah. Yeah.
know that for sure.
Sequel
Um,
coming out this year, apparently.
mm. So, and it's like the game modes are usually like capture a point or escort a payload,
Payload. Yeah.
something like that. Very simple sort of game modes.
Mm.
And I think it would translate nicely. I was basically thinking, how can you take these characters in terms of like the Terminators themselves,
Yeah.
T800, T1000,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
make them unique?
Yeah.
So I thought this is a nice way to give them all their own abilities and give a reason to choose one over another one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just have everyone choosing Arnie.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Of course.
so I thought it could still be two teams. And then obviously on one side you have just Terminators. So in terms of like films and alliances in the films, just basically take it as it's the Terminators versus like the humans, right?
Mm.
Um, so on the Terminator side, you could have T800, T1000, T850, T3000, T whatever.
Yeah.
And then on like the human side, you can have Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese and John Connor, and I think just take them from their prime. So like you have problems with like, for example, Battlefront 2, you have Anakin and you have Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So there's that weird dynamic there. So you might have like Sarah Connor and John Connor the same age, even though he's like her son and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you kind of just forget about that, right? Just take them in their prime. And then obviously each character has unique weapons and abilities. So like Arnie will have his red pointer laser gun that he has in the first film.
Yeah.
And then
You could
everyone
have
else has different
you could
guns.
have like the T850 as a minigun and a coffin, like he does in
Yeah.
Terminator 3. Just puts a
Yeah,
coffin on his shoulder and has a minigun in the left hand.
why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like obviously they've all got unique abilities, but obviously try and keep them uh try and keep them level in terms of power, because
Yeah.
obviously a whole team of Terminators is pretty much a shoe in, right? So you're there'll have to be something to kind of
Yeah.
dumb them down a bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Make
and then
it,
the other
yeah.
thing,
Like the shooting is just sort of the bread and butter, but where it gets interesting is the additional abilities, which I think is what Overwatch does.
yeah, yeah, and then
Yeah.
like there's like team abilities and stuff, So someone will have like a crowd control, and then someone will have a high damage one, and then you can use them
Yeah.
together
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get like big multi kills and everything. Then the other thing I thought of was locations, because in Overwatch you have these unique locations, which again kind of depends on what game mode you're playing. So if you're playing like a escort the payload one, it's more of just a long sort of map. But if you've got
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
capture the point, it's usually just a bigger map. Um,
Yeah.
and a lot of the time, it's kind of one central thing, and then the surrounding area.
Mhm.
So I was thinking for this, you can have the corral bar from the opening scene of Terminator 2, as
All
like a
right.
center point when he walks in and he wants some clothes. You could have the nightclub from the first film when it's like the first point they sort of have a little
Mhm.
shootout. You could have Big Jeff's if you want, where Sarah Connor works, the restaurant
Big
cafe
Jeffs.
sort of thing. And
Could
then you
have a
could have like
bridge.
a
They love a bridge in the
yeah,
Terminator
yeah,
movies, don't they?
it's true. Then you could have a map that's set like in 2029 LA, where it's all
Yeah. Yeah.
like apocalyptic and everything. And again, like center point, and then just bigger surrounding area. So it's not all just going to be, in the restaurant, because that's be too small. So, so it have to be like just a bigger surrounding area, and obviously just pad it out with whatever you want. And then I thought, I was writing this up, and then I thought it could maybe be more like Apex Legends in terms of it still has a roster of set characters with set abilities, different from other like battle royales where you basically go in there with nothing, right?
Yeah, and then you equip while you're there, type thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So with Apex, obviously it's smaller teams, but obviously more than two, more players, and it's battle royale. I didn't put too much thought into the dynamic of Terminators or humans.
No.
I guess maybe like it's just whoever's on your team, they work together. Again, you kind of have to just forget about any alliances from the film or anything. But I was just thinking, basically, a game mode where you can have a big multiplayer setting and just big old shootouts, but it still has a clear objective of, for example, capturing a point. But give everyone the chance to play as people from the films without making them too samey. Give a reason to choose someone over someone else.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I think but as like an Apex Legends-esque sort of battle royale where there are little side objectives. I think they're like called contracts or something like that. I'm total battle royale noob. The closest thing I've played to battle royale was Fall Guys, so I wouldn't know anything. But yeah, like that sort of. You could have like your T850 as this ability, your T800 as this, and maybe like a T800 sort of just like a well-rounded. Your T850's bigger but slower. Your T1000's like quick, but takes a lot of damage really quickly. But then maybe doesn't die. Maybe it just freezes him until he can repatch himself together. And then not only that, but yeah, again you the powers that go alongside them. Maybe again your T800 is really basic, but he's really good with firearms, and then your T850 is better with melee, and then your T1000 maybe something like Team Fortress 2 can impersonate someone from the opposite team. So they think they're on your team, you sneak up, boom, you're dead. I think that's quite an interesting take on a Terminator video game that I don't think, unfortunately, we'd ever get to see, and what I've got to pitch, I don't think we'd ever get to see as well. But really, really interesting. I like it, Benz. I like it. Should I give my one?
Yeah. The only other thing I was going to say is like you could have ultimate abilities as well, like in Overwatch. So you could have Arnie say, "I'll be back," and then he's in a car.
And then he's in a car. Yeah. And the T850 could have a minigun. Just his ultimate is like he gets a minigun out in a coffin. Like I said, such a weird movie. Number 3. Anyway, and also Arnie looks really weird in that movie. I don't know if you've noticed it, but he's wearing like women's leather clothes. I think. I don't know. It's just like full on leather in Terminator 3, but it doesn't fit him right. I don't know. Right. So my pitch is quite simple. Resident Evil 2 remake, but a Terminator movie. Easy. You put Sarah Connor as Claire Redfield, and the person pursuing you is a Terminator, like Mr. X. Now, I just jotted this down. I was like, boom, done. Easy, peasy. But then I was like, like in Resident Evil 2, obviously there's zombies, right? So then what can we do for that? And I was like, I don't really know. Then I was like sort of thinking, maybe it would be better sort of set in the future where you're John Connor, but like a young John Connor, right? So you could be like John Connor. You get trapped. Your teammates have to leave you, and there's an Arnie type Terminator hunting you down. He's set on his ways to get you. He's a big boy. He's a big, thick boy, right? And then maybe there's like smaller, lesser built up Terminators that don't have any skin on them. They're just very, very simple Terminators, and they can be like your slow moving enemies, like in Resident Evil 2, right? They're, your zombies are your bog standard. You got some lickers in there. You could have some like Terminator dogs. I don't know. And then you could even, so I think that would work. Like, set in the future, the main aim of like Resident Evil 2 is to be able to solve your puzzles, get your bits that you need without Mr. X catching you, right? That's why it's always suspenseful, because you need to get in that room, but he's upstairs and he could come down the stairs at any minute type thing. Really, really interesting gameplay. One of my favourite games released last generation. So I was like, maybe you could do that. Maybe you could set it in the Sarah Connor sort of timeline. And obviously Arnold again is Mr. X, and maybe you could just have like thugs set in LA, that you don't shoot, obviously don't kill them, but you have to like beat them up, or run away, or take them out somehow, or maybe there are some smaller Terminators that have come from the future into that. I don't really know how it would work, but I think if you set it with the Sarah Connor timeline, there's quite an interesting thing where in Resident Evil 2, you play through the story. We played it through as Claire Redfield, right? And then you have to play it again as Leon. And then when you play it again as Leon, it's the same game, but all the story beats are different and all the cutscenes are different. So you don't experience the full story in Resident Evil 2 Remake or Resident Evil 2, the original, without playing through both of them. Then there's an additional playthrough for both characters where it shows more of the story and gives you like an extended ending, right? So what I thought you could do is you could have like your Sarah Connor playthrough, and then you could have your Carl Reese playthrough. Which is quite interesting because Sarah Connor, she doesn't really have any skills. You could give her a shotgun, whatever. Whereas Kyle Reese, he knows how to shoot. He comes like equipped with a pistol or whatever. So I thought that could be quite interesting. But again, the main thing is maybe you sort of set it in, maybe a police station, maybe like a warehouse type place. And it's quite enclosed. It's quite, claustrophobic, as you would say, and he's around every corner. You know, you can hear him. You know he's close the whole time, and you got to get your bits to solve your puzzles while he's pursuing you. It's quite simple. I think it would need a bit more fleshing out, but that would be, I think it would get a lot of people playing it as well, and I think that's quite a solid game to import Terminator into. I'm probably sure there's a mod somewhere, just replacing Mr. X with Arnie. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I think the limited number of characters lends itself well. I think obviously a lot of like sci-fi films that came out in the 80s, except for like Star Wars and Back to the Future, a lot of them are lean into horror quite a lot.
Yeah,
so like Aliens and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was quite sort of popular, wasn't it? I mean, I think it's having a bit of I think there's a bit of a resurgence at the moment as horror elements in normal films, then comedy elements in horror films. And I don't know if that's because of like the spoofs that we got, sort of in the mid 2000s, late 90s. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of horror elements in Terminator for sure. Yeah. Anything to add?
And then I guess with like zombies and stuff, sort of just mindless NPCs, which are quite easy to transfer over.
Yeah. That was the only sort of thing I struggled on, but I'm sure there's a workaround somehow. Go on then, Ben. Give us your second one.
So I had a similar thought in terms of like a kind of survival game, but I changed it a little bit because I feel like we've done a lot of them. Because I feel like again they're quite easy to apply to films that feature these kind of limited main characters.
Yeah.
So instead, I thought of like a search and destroy game
Okay.
because the narrative of the Terminator is pretty much search and destroy Sarah Connor, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking, right, search and destroy game, I feel like is a bit like there's not a lot of games you could confidently describe as that. Um, However, I'd say a game mode which does feature kind of search and destroy things are Rainbow Six games.
Right.
Specifically, the ones that I've played the most would be Rainbow Six Vegas and Vegas 2.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
the ones that I've personally played the most.
Yeah.
Where they're kind of, find a thing, destroy the thing.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking you just play as Arnie, go round, find some Sarah Connors, because he kills a fair few of them in the first film,
Yeah.
and just kill them. And for this, I've also written in the notes could include horror elements, like for example the Friday the 13th video game, where again
Yeah.
it's just one big bad boy that someone plays as,
Big
and
boy.
you go and find people and you kill them.
Yeah.
I guess because it would most likely just be a single player game, have him as powerful as you need.
Yeah.
I feel like if you want him to like one hit kill people, go for it. I don't think he needs very kind of powerful enemies. Obviously, don't make it too easy, but I think just have it, just all about the Terminator.
Yeah. I have something a little bit similar. It's fairly different. But yeah, I think that is the Terminator, right? Is hunting down and destroying. Obviously, in the sequels, it's protecting, but yeah, definitely. I'll give my second pitch because what I've got as an idea is fairly similar to yours. So this second pitch. I was going to say sequel then. Sequel to the first pitch. No. Second pitch. This is the game that I would personally like. Being selfish here. So I would like a Terminator game where you play as a bog standard Terminator. It doesn't have to be Arnold. Maybe Arnold's a skin or whatever. Maybe it's like a creator character, right? But the aim of the game is to go back in time to different periods, and you've got like a target, right? So it's like a Terminator bounty hunter game. Okay, so basically you go into these different time periods, you've got these big open levels, and there's, I don't know, 2-3 targets you need to take out, or there's a target you need to take out, but you don't know what they look like. You just know their names, so then you have to, sort of search around, find who they are, right? So a little bit like search and destroy, but mixed with a bit of bounty hunting. So the gameplay would be very similar to a game like Dishonored or the recent Hitman games. So it's not open world, right? But it's open level. You've got a certain level, but it's quite open, and you can go your way about it however you choose. You might go straight in, boom, shoot him in the face, done. Or you might take your time, look around, kill him in a really unique way, or you might go guns blazing, you might go stealth. There's lots of different options, but your main aim of the game is to take out a certain target in each level, or a few different targets. So I would say you start out as a normal Terminator, nothing special really. You can withstand bullets a bit, you're a bit tougher, maybe you can hack a few doors. That's about it. You start off with no weapons. You have to find your weapons in the levels, right? That's quite interesting because when you go back through time, they're butt naked, so maybe they have to find clothes as well. I think that could be quite interesting. Then as you play through the game, you can start acquiring new abilities, like in Dishonored. So in Dishonored, you sort of start out, then you get like a warp ability, then you get like a sort of like a mirror ability or something like that. There's lots of different abilities in Dishonored, and it's very like suitable to your playstyle. You can play however you want with these elements, right? So I've said maybe you can like upgrade and get spider bots that you can send through vents and distract people, this, that, and the other. Maybe you can upgrade your hacking skills. Maybe you can, I don't know, unlock an ability where you take your face off and scare someone like because you're a robot, and then you know they're set in a stun mode type thing. Maybe you can even upgrade the unit yourself. So you start off as a T800, but you could upgrade into a T1000, get your chipset transferred. Then you can unlock even different abilities, like you can unlock like melee abilities where you turn your hands into a spike, or you can even unlock. You can go melt down and slide through doors and come up the other side. Or you could even do like a mirror ability, so you could kill someone and take on their appearance, and then you can get up to your target nice and close. Or even you could even upgrade to a Rev 9, which is in the most recent Terminator, where you can actually separate from yourself. So it's like a T1000, right? But over like a T800 shell. So it like separates. One of them can sort of replicate other people, and then the other one's just like a hard metal shell. So you could either do that where you know you can impersonate people and then get up nice and close, or you could go in guns blazing. You could split apart. You could send one person off here, and then you can sneak around the back, so you could use them as a distraction. Or you could maybe even have these puzzles where you have to actually activate switches at the same time. I think that could be quite interesting. I think the Rev 9 has got some interesting game mechanics it could have for something that wasn't really utilized in the film much. It was just, oh look, it's two Terminators that mold into one, really, wasn't it? I'd like to see it set in different locations in different time periods. So, like, maybe you could have like a World War II France. You could have like a 1970s America with like um, the protests against Vietnam and stuff like that. You could have like 1960s London, gangsters, Cockney people, this, that, and the other. You could have like a 90s New York, very pop culture, you know, like big movies coming out, this, that, and the other, video games and all sorts of stuff. You know, so there's sort of different time periods and locations that would be really interesting to set it. But yeah, like with you, Ben, it is here's your target. You search and destroy. You might not even know what they look like. You'd have to get clues throughout the level, or you know what they look like, but they're really hard to get to. So you have to find ways around. And I think that's what the Hitman games do very well. But you partner that with the Dishonored upgrades that you use to not only take out enemies, but to actually access locations that you couldn't currently get to, like the teleport ability and stuff like that. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I think the idea of you start with like nothing and then you can
Yeah,
upgrade and stuff obviously plays into the film because like they're basically like foreign aliens, right? Or Arnie, like in the first one, because
yeah,
he's
yeah,
got no clothes on, and then he walks
yeah.
up to a
That's
group
it.
of people.
Yeah,
They say to him, "It's a nice night for a walk," and then he replies with, "Nice night for a walk." You know, it's like he knows nothing. So I think
yeah,
like the idea of upgrading and stuff plays in well.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Same with like different time periods, because again, it's like they can go wherever they want, but then they sort of have to um like learn what's going on there, you know.
that's it. Yeah, yeah. Get used to this, you know, um, culture, time, and culture that you've dropped into. You know, 80s LA. He is completely different to obviously like 2029 LA and stuff like that. So that's quite interesting. Yeah, I think it's just a really interesting mechanic where with the different time zones and the different locations, it just gives you so much option to just really get creative in those areas and stuff. Like not from a like a player perspective, but a developer perspective, right? And then yeah, you have to okay, well, what clothes are relevant for this time zone? You know, you're not going to go 1960s London and dress up in like a pink vest and shorts and flip-flops like you dress up nowadays. So, you know, you're going to have to wear like a suit or something like that, right, to actually fit in. Otherwise, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. But then maybe if you go into the 80s and you're wearing brown, what? Who wears brown in the 80s? Why are you brown with a mustache? Get your mullet and get your high, you know, your high colour clothes. Stuff like that. I think that could be quite interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add, or do you want to give your next one?
No, I'll do my next one.
Cool.
So I think I think Terminator lends itself to an open world game. For a lot of the reasons that I mentioned a second ago, of like you're just put there, and because you literally know nothing, you can search everywhere and you'll find something new. And then I specifically put open world GTA style game. The reason being, there is a lot of vehicles in that first film that I realised when I watched it recently. And specifically tyre shots. There's a lot of shots of tyres of like cars coming into frame and you see like a tyre. There's so many of them. Like you see the tank track things from 2029, and then one of the first shots is a car pulling up, and then obviously you see his motorbike and you see the tyres, and then you see the car that Kyle and Sarah are in, and you see the tyres, and then you see him get in the big truck thing and you see the tyres. There's just a lot of tyre shots.
James Cameron has a tyre fetish, clearly, or did at that time.
Yeah. So I think, like, from the games that I've seen the Terminator in and from his cameos in other games, he's never using a vehicle. So I think give him something to do with a vehicle, and I thought a way to do that is an open world game, because obviously there's a lot of space to use a vehicle. Again, like the last games we've talked about, find something, kill it. Find a Sarah Connor, kill her. You know? And then obviously because it's like an open world game, and the story would be very like probably single player, similar to like GTA. Obviously it's got online, but I'd say it's most famous for its single player stories. I'd say you could have it so that he goes around killing people at first, and then slowly comes to realise he should start protecting them. You know, you could make a longer story which links over multiple films.
Yeah, I mean, the most recent film did that, didn't it? Where there was no reprogramming, nothing was there to Arnie in the most recent one. He killed John Connor and then realised he had no purpose. And that was sort of it. Sort of became self-aware. So that's quite interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Making like an actual quite deep story out of it. You could do, couldn't you? You know, like, what are we? We're just what we're created to be, type thing. So that could be quite cool. Definitely with the cars. Yeah, that could. I mean, you know, Arnie with the trucks, Arnie on the motorbike, smashing a car through a police station. You know, the films really rely heavily on like chase scenes, right? So yeah, definitely 100%. I would play it. I would definitely play it. Just need to find someone to make it. Anything you got to add, Ben?
Again, just like we see the Terminator, and he's just there to use to beat someone else up. So, you know, maybe give him a car or give him an actual story in these games that he features in.
I mean, I think I do, like, don't get me wrong, I think Terminator does lend itself well to quite a few shooter games, but it's just overdone, isn't it? Like, there's just too many like first person shooters. Not so much now, but especially in the past. It is time for something new. A lot, and at the moment, all games are pretty much open world, aren't they? Pretty much. But like, yeah, get creative with it. Yeah, I would. I just want a Terminator game set in that 80s era, not in the future, because a lot of the Terminator games are set in the future. You know, Terminator Salvation, Terminator, what we said earlier, Free Redemption or whatever. It's got future segments, right? I want to see a proper AAA, fully fleshed out 80s Terminator game. Whether you play as Sarah and you've got to run away from him, or you play as Terminator himself, could be really interesting. I think that does it, Ben, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for listening. Please, 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 please leave us a rating wherever you listen to us. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and most podcasting apps. If you'd like to send us a question or a recommendation for a topic, always more than welcome. We've still not had any questions. I'll check my junk box, but I'm pretty sure we haven't had any. You can send it to us to playwatchpitchcast@gmail.com. That's playwatchpitchcast@gmail.com. If you want to see any updates about our podcast on social media, you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/playmovieswatchgames. Alternatively, you can find us on Twitter at playwatchpitch. If you want to just listen to the pitches and you don't mind having an app open in the background while you listen to it, you can find us on YouTube. Just give us a search and we will be putting just our pitches up on there. Right, Ben. I don't really know what to do for a hint next week. I've got an idea. Have you got any idea?
Oh, it's a hard one, isn't it? We're in quite uncharted waters with this hint.
Oh, I think that'll do it. See you next week.
Bye.